Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tunnel Vision, the live show brought to you by USCFootball.com. I am your host, Keely Eure, joined alongside Ryan Abraham and Shotgun Spratling. We'll be answering your guys' questions today, so make sure you put it on Periscope, YouTube, and Facebook. We will be monitoring those comments. Of course, if you comment on Facebook, we will show those on the screen. Today we'll be talking about mock game week. We finished that up. USC will have one more closed practice today and a closed mock scrimmage on Saturday. We'll be giving injury updates, obviously talk about the quarterback battle, and then we'll answer your questions. Guys, we are done for the week. What we can see for USC football, which is a departure from last week, which was fall camp every day, all day. What do you guys think about this week to start off?
It's kind of strange. It's Wednesday, or yesterday was Wednesday. Today's Thursday. We finished practice, and it was actually a pretty long practice as far as like the number of reps go. But you knew that was the last you were going to see this team until the following week. Like Keely mentioned, we'll be able to talk to Clay Helton today after practice, but we won't see anything else. So the whole mock game week, we're not going to know what's going on there. The next time we talk to Clay Helton, potentially we'll know who the quarterback is. So we're just not sure at this point. But it's kind of strange because we've had practice pretty much every day. You get a day off every once in a while. Now we get like a bunch of days off, so that's kind of nice.
Just means more work, more time to write, so more content. I mean, we put out a bunch of content this week already, so expect more from us. Like you said, it's kind of a wait-and-see period now.
Yeah.
Clay will talk after practice today. Probably not going to be much development as far as positionings or anything like that. So we'll see where they are. Hopefully they get a couple more guys back from injuries. That's been a kind of a theme this week.
Sure.
They got a bunch of people back on Tuesday for the first practice of the week. So it's great to see guys like Cam Smith and Keely Ross, potential starters there, getting those guys back.
Keely Ross was back for a little bit.
Well, he was back on Tuesday for the full practice. Wednesday was a little bit different. So getting some guys back was really big. And now they get to, with those guys, getting those guys back, it means you have a little bit more depth. That means you can go at each other a little bit more, which is what we saw this week. Really good week of practice of guys, physicality, just going at each other. Got some chippiness yesterday.
Chippy.
Which is fun. Which Clay said. Clay was asking, "What do you think about it, Clay?" Awesome. Oh, did that make practice fun? It's like,
I don't think you want to see punches thrown and things like that as much, but just a little bit. Dan, I've done like 3 radio interviews this morning. I did an hour-and-a-half podcast with Dan Weber. Now we're doing this, and I got more crap to do later. It's football season when all this stuff is going on. Dan was very optimistic after didn't like Saturday's scrimmage, but he really liked Tuesday and Wednesday's practice, like the more physical. He liked the competitiveness. I don't know if you felt the same way.
Yeah, I definitely thought the same thing. I mean, they did a lot of run stuff.
Tuesday.
On Saturday.
Yes, true, yeah.
So, I mean, they got something out of the practice, but it was run stuff with Ben Easington and Little Junti, the walk-on running backs and stuff. You didn't see much of the starters. The defense, the first-team defense didn't do anything, basically, because all your returning guys did nothing in the scrimmage. And then you had a couple, where they're kind of vying for the positions. You saw those guys in there for a little bit, but the older guys didn't do as much. So you come away with that where it's kind of like, okay, with the offense, it was basically an offensive day and an opportunity to see the younger guys, as they were saying.
So you're like, wait, what? I thought this was going to be like some big showcase to see which quarterback is going to win. The
quarterbacks are young. They are young guys. So in my mind, I was like...
But, Clay kind of built it up like that was going to be a big, important thing.
I think yesterday was the biggest day for the quarterbacks. Like I take notes on, and I write down so it's JT Daniels' turn. Who's the defense? Who's the offense? And you kind of go through. This is 7-on-7. This is team run. This is whatever. I've never had to go on my little notebook onto a second page. Yesterday I had to go on the second page. So there were more quarterback turns yesterday than we've seen before. So maybe that was building up to that point. It was the Wednesday half pads super quarterback day, and then they go from there.
The thing is like they built up like that was going to be a big, it's going to be a big day last week for the scrimmage would be a big thing because they talked about those live settings, those live periods are really important. That's when you get to see, when everything's coming at them. You get to see how they react, that type of thing. And then they threw combined 21 passes.
Right.
So you're like, okay, well then this week coming up, the mock game week is going to be real big. And then you ask Brian Ellis on Tuesday, it's like, well, how important will the mock game on Saturday be? He's like, that won't matter at all. It's basically going to be a dress rehearsal. It's about doing substitutions, different things like that. It's about all the other stuff besides actually playing.
So that's not a competitive day. That's more about here's what's going to happen during a game.
It's an actual mock game.
Yeah.
It's not a scrimmage in that sense.
Yeah. So therefore,
yesterday had to be a big day.
Yeah. So you expect this week coming up to this week we're currently in, not coming up, to be important for that decision making, or is the decision already made?
I don't know. My decision's made, but I don't get paid millions of dollars to make those kind of calls. So.
I would like to get paid millions.
That would be nice.
Ryan, can we arrange that?
Yeah, Ryan, let's go.
Pay raises on live pay raises.
If I get paid millions, I'll pay you guys millions. How's that?
Let's get that going somehow.
We do want to make this interactive, just to let people know. Hopefully everything's working all right. And,
We are having problems on YouTube. I'm trying to fix it, hence why I'm not on the screen a lot. But
Okay.
apparently we're working on Periscope and Facebook, so sorry about the YouTube
I see
problems.
Periscope is working okay.
Yes, so I'm working on it, guys. We'll get something going. As far as injuries, Shotgun, you have been tracking the injuries all camp long. He has a nice little chart that he brings to practice every day, and he has a little system. What are we at as far as injuries go?
The good news is they got a lot of guys back. I mean, on Tuesday in particular, from the Saturday scrimmage, they had 11 guys come back. So at the end of the scrimmage, I think there was something like, let me look real quick. At the end of the scrimmage, they had 25 guys out. Now they got 11 guys back, and they lost a couple other guys in the mix of there. But they're already over a combined 200 days absences for guys and limitations. So you're losing that, and that's in 14 practices that we've seen. They're at 220, a little bit over 220, 225. So combined, you're losing. You're not having 14, 15, 16 guys at practice on average, and that's including like the first day of camp. When that's including that day where you have like 2 guys out. Your guys that have been injured, Solomon Tuliapupu and Owala Batiku, and those guys that are going to be out for a while, and nobody else was injured. Then that second day hit, and all of a sudden you lost your Keely Ross, you lost Cameron Smith to hamstrings, and the next day you added a couple more, and it just kind of piled up. And there's a lot of guys that were out, especially going into that or at the end of that scrimmage, and that was including. I mean, that's with a lot of guys not even participating really heavily. So it was like, wow, there's a lot of injuries, and it would have been a big concern if this week you still had 25 guys out. But I think it shows that they were kind of saving some guys. They didn't want, like Cameron Smith and Keely Ross, they didn't need those guys to be in the scrimmage. Cameron Smith in particular, because he's got so much experience and so much playing time in the past. We don't need to rush that guy back, even though he was doing some limited work last week. You get him back this week, he's ready to go. You get Keely Ross back so he can compete for that safety spot. You got a bunch of guys back. You're still missing some guys, but it's good to get all those bodies back, and now you're seeing that they're able to do the competition. So they've had 33 total players be out at some point in 2.5 weeks.
That's a lot.
In 2.5 weeks. Almost 3 weeks now. But
I love the chart you got. He's got color-coded chart going on.
Yeah.
Nice.
We're tracking as much as we can here. Try to give you guys the data.
Okay, before we go into questions, the last question that is on everyone's mind: quarterback battle. We talked about it a little bit. Ryan said it's settled. Who you guys got? Who do you think will be named starting quarterback?
Matt Barkley, 100. Oh no, wait, JT Daniels, man. He's. I talked to Dan today, and I did a bunch of interviews and stuff, and talking about his arm talent and how he's been able to pick up the offense quickly, just even though he's only been on campus a couple of months. There's so much he does well. He hasn't had the really terrible days passing. Like I chart every day. He's not, everyone else has had multiple days where they're under 50% passing. He hasn't really had anything like that. He's leading all 3 guys as far as completion percentage goes. There's been some days where he's threw a pick or 2, but for the most part, he's been the most consistent. But I think what Dan said, he said it best. He's shown the most confidence to me out there. He seems like he's very confident in what he's doing. So being a young guy coming in there, he's not afraid to sling it around. He's made a couple mistakes, but he's done some really, really good things, and he seems confident doing it. And if you want to go on the road and beat Stanford, and you want to go beat Texas and play Utah, all these teams, there are a lot of tough road games that are going to be really important. You have to go into that environment with a lot of confidence, a lot of swagger, and he seems to have it already.
Yeah, that's the thing is he makes that quick decision and he goes with it.
Yeah.
And he's thrown some interceptions, not too many, but he threw a couple on Tuesday, almost back to back, or maybe it was back to back.
It was 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3 plays. But then he came back the next play, throws a slant pass. Now, granted, it's the safety's fault that this turns into a touchdown because the safety wasn't over the top. So he throws a slant pass, and then Elijah Griffin was behind him, and Devin Williams took it to the house for a 35-yard touchdown or whatever. So he answers back those things with a quick decision, throwing that quick slant route, and probably knowing that the safety's a little bit shaded over the wrong side or whatever it may be. So I think that what he's done is shown that he can bounce back from things. Are the interceptions a concern? I don't think it's Sam Darnold level of concern last year during games. However, he has thrown some, and sometimes, there were learning experiences like the two that he threw on Tuesday were both where cornerbacks were baiting him in different ways. Jonathan Lockett on one was playing an underneath coverage, and he saw JT's eyes and immediately took off backwards and was able to get underneath the pass and jump up and pick it off. And it's just this much of a difference between a completed pass on the edge of the sideline versus interception, and that's the razor's edge that you're playing with in this game. I think Jack Sears has been really good, especially compared to what he was in the spring. He has made such a great improvement from spring to now that if you didn't have JT Daniels, you'd be kind of confident going into the season, Jack Sears could probably lead this team right now. And they'd be good. There would be some limitations on what you want to do, and I think there still will be with JT Daniels. Like, you don't want to air it out too much to begin with, but we'll see. And I think that connection with Amon-Ra for JT Daniels has just allowed him to go, take that one extra step. Because remember, looking at first scrimmage, he threw 3 touchdown passes to Amon-Ra, and 2 of them at least were on passes where it's like, okay, I know I'm just going to throw it up, and I know Amon will go find it. It was a 50-50 ball for a long, deep ball, leading to the first touchdown. His first pass, and it's like everybody kind of opened their eyes, like, JT Daniels, throwing the deep ball, and it was because Amon-Ra knew how to do the small things to get himself open at the end of the route when it was a very good defense to begin with, and then later you have double coverage. He throws in the back of the end zone, and Amon-Ra goes up and gets the foot down, right in the back of the end zone. So his stats look really good because your wide receiver is doing it. And I think that's part of it. Is like those two have such a great connection together. Probably one of the best quarterback-receiver connections you'll ever see coming in as true freshmen together.
That's a huge advantage for him because he's going to, Amon-Ra is probably going to play a big part in this offense. He'll be in the rotation. And it's not, you've seen Jack Sears and Matt Fink they get to play with Tyler Vaughns and Michael Pittman and stuff like that before, where JT Daniels hasn't. But he has someone he comes in with, complete security blanket. He knows he can just throw it to him almost no matter what's going on. So I think that certainly helps him a lot. And we're seeing that chemistry. I think all 3 quarterbacks are like, if they're in a little bit of trouble, if Tyler Vaughns is around, you could throw it up to him somewhere, and he seems to go up and get it. So I think you're seeing some of that chemistry, but him coming in with Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, has helped a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I think those 2 guys just have that. They're almost sixth sense connection. All right, I'll throw it here, and I know you'll go get it. That type of thing. So I think those 2 have helped JT push himself forward. So I don't know. The quarterback decision making might be a lot different if Amon-Ra would have went to Equanimous St. Brown would have stayed in college, because he said he probably would have went to Notre Dame with his brother if he didn't leave early for the NFL. So who knows? Who knows how history could change on one decision like that. So.
Those 2 incoming freshmen, if you think stars don't matter, they're 2 5-star guys. Stars matter. They're going to both play prominent roles. And you might see, we had a question on the podcast this morning about, hey, could they do a 2-quarterback system? No, I don't like that. I think that's dumb. But you might see like a Jack Sears kind of come in similar to what Sam Darnold did in 2016 when Max Brown was starting. Maybe he comes in and there's some kind of zone read where it's a design run or does something else. You might see some stuff like that. Like say Jack Sears finishes second and JT Daniels finishes first. So who knows? We'll see what goes on there.
I think Sears has looked pretty good doing the read option stuff that they've done. I thought he's looked really good. Especially like I said, the comparison from spring to now. Spring is like they don't have any quarterbacks, and now it's like, well, they got 2 quarterbacks for sure. Yeah. And then Matt Fink's obviously been in the back end of the.
I think he's got better too from the spring, but just it's not been. He's had more days where it just was like 3 of 9 kind of thing. It just wasn't as good as the other guys.
A little bit inconsistent.
Yeah.
We have a question from Mike Connolly that says, how does JT Daniels compare to Matt Barkley as a freshman?
Well, they both went to modern day. Matt Barkley did some really good things his freshman year. I think it kind of petered off towards the end. There was maybe a little bit of fatigue factor. We saw JT Daniels play 15 games last year. I don't know if that's going to be, a big of a deal, but he wasn't good. He didn't let the, set the world on fire as far as stats go, but I think it was decent. I think you're going to see something similar with JT Daniels in this kind of situation. So if you remember, I think there was it Aaron Corp, or and then he ended up getting
Aaron
hurt.
Corp got injured.
He got injured, and then so this will be different because it'll be just full on. He wins the job outright, but I don't think you're going to expect him to get Sam Darnold kind of numbers. It's more of 23 touchdowns, keep the picks, 8 or 9 picks for the year, and hand the ball off a bunch, and just don't screw up a whole bunch. I think it's going to be something similar to what Barkley did. Barkley had a great opportunity. He won on the road at Ohio State. So that was a great win. Joe McKnight was, but that was more of the Joe McKnight show than the Matt Barkley show. So I think that you're kind of similar. I don't think you want to put a true freshman in there and say, I need you to throw for 40 touchdowns and 3,500 yards. Probably not going to happen.
Well, that's interesting because Tarek asked on YouTube before we blanked out there, is that do you think JT Daniels could have similar statistics to Jake Fromm for freshman year last year? Which I looked up Jake Fromm's statistics last year for Georgia. The true freshman quarterback led them to the national championship game after coming in. Played in 15 games, 181 for 291, so 62%, and then 2,600 yards, 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Do you see that as a possibility?
I think that might be a little on the high end, but I think that's also 15 games.
Yeah.
But so maybe I think 2,200 yards or something is reasonable. 22. I don't know, something like that. But
I think he can get almost to 3,000.
Really?
I think he's just going to develop more and more. I don't know that fatigue will be an issue. I know you said that with Barkley. I think the extra weight that JT Daniels has put on from maybe 2 years ago when we saw him as more of a string bean guy to now he's pretty thick. I don't think that'll be an issue. As long as he stays healthy, I think if he wins the job, I think easily he could. Because they're going to throw it around with him. You got receiver options galore. When
the USC quarterbacks have done well, it's the Cody Kesslers of the world, they'll have the 350 6 touchdown kind of games. Is he going to have because he's going to probably have the 150 yard kind of games. So you need those other ones to offset it. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of those. If they're going to ask him to do a lot of that stuff, we'll see. But they usually would pile on the stats against the weaker teams. Is he going to come out against UNLV and try to throw for 5 or 6? I don't know. I guess it's possible, but
the other thing is when you're playing those teams, you throw a screen pass and it goes for 80 yards.
That's true too.
It was good stats for a quarterback.
That helped Cody Kessler a little bit back in the day.
We have another question in regards to JT Daniels. If Daniels gets the job, will he be able to make readjustments being so young in this new offense?
Readjustments. So adjusting and then readjusting.
He said read adjustments, but
I don't.
Yeah, I think he will be. I think that's the thing that makes JT Daniels a little bit better is that he has his ability to kind of decipher the defense, read it before, and that's something that Brian Ellis said that is a work in progress for all 3 quarterbacks. He mentioned that Jack Sears, they're talking about the decision making is what he said would probably be the determining factor. And he said with Jack Sears, he's got to know the offense a little bit more. He's still got to learn. He said with JT, he's got to do the read progressions or something he's got to work on. But I think that's a learning process, and the more and more reps he gets, the better.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the coaches are going to want him to do at this point. They're probably going to there'll be some RPO kind of things, but I think you're going to want to put him out there. Here's the play we want you to run and kind of do it. Now, he's the kind of kid that would come back and go, hey, this is what I saw, blah, 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 this is going on here. I don't know how much of are they going to let him go out and start running things, do it yourself. I think he's capable of doing that. I don't know if the coaches are going to want him to do that.
No, because Sam Darnold didn't even have a 2-minute drill type thing where he could call the plays. That was the one thing I was if he comes back, they have to implement this.
Sure.
That's one of the only things that he needs in his game is that because he never did it. He never went to the line and said, okay, you run this. Whereas JT Daniels, I saw him as a sophomore in high school, and that's basically what he did. He threw for 7 touchdowns in the first half of a game against Santa Margarita, and he literally was just because obviously they had so many receivers there that basically their top 5 receivers all are D1 guys, all Pac-12 level guys, and he was just pointing out to them, okay, you run this, you run, and basically just signaling which routes to run, and making a concept on one side, and then making a dummy concept probably on the other side, and just reading off of what the safeties were doing, different where the linebackers were lined up, and just running things, and they were just passing all over Santa Margarita in that game, and like I said, it was working well enough that he threw for 7 touchdowns in the first half in that game.
That's pretty good. I mean, who knows? Maybe he does that. Maybe he's going to do something like that at USC, and you see like a second half of Jack Sears in one of these games. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's not like he's incapable of doing that. I'm just not sure they're going to ask him to do all that much. But
we have a question from Tester Troy who says, Shotgun, how do you evaluate the offensive line this camp?
It's hard because they've had guys in and out the last week. They're getting healthier now. They got Andrew Voorhees back. They got Austin Jackson back. Chuma, was back yesterday, where you now actually have a true, first-team line. And I think the fact that we've seen those physical practices the last couple of days, and you've seen the run game a little bit more, I think that that's a positive. Early in camp, usually the defensive line is ahead, and the defensive line dominated early in the camp, especially that first scrimmage. Everybody freaked out. They had 8-9 sacks in that, and it was a concern. I think I'm less concerned now about the offensive line. I think there's been some improvements, and I think that comes with a camp. You get to know the guys a little bit better, which I thought maybe this group would already have because of how many veterans they have, but apparently it's taken a little bit of time. Really, you don't know the offensive line in my mind. Because, one, for us, they're so far away during practice. And it's hard to focus on those guys at times. You can only focus on really one guy, and you don't know what exactly the assignments are, that type of thing. So really, you don't know until you get to a game, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that's something that when I watch film on the UNLV game, that's something I'll be looking at in particular. But I think that they're definitely on the upward trajectory right now from what we saw at the beginning of camp. For sure.
I think the snapping's improved a lot, and that helps too, because that starts the whole play. And sometimes it's not even just that it's a bad snap; it's a snap that throws the timing off, and then the protection, it gets a little bit tougher too. So I think that's helped. Toa Lobendon's really secured things up. We have a couple Periscope ones too, but do you expect to see run-heavy packages against UNLV until the starters get healthy? And that was from Banshee. Sorry, I got to look over here.
Which starters are we referencing? Because I think that most of the starters are healthy right now.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, Pittman got back yesterday, so he's now full contact.
A guy like Porter Gustin, if he's ready to go, do you want to see him in there at all, or not really?
Well, if you're talking about run packages, that's offense, right?
Yeah. He said. Oh, sorry.
What was the question again?
Do you expect to see a run-heavy package against UNLV till the starters get healthy? Yes. Okay. Sorry. Screw that up. I don't know.
I mean, I think you'll see a lot of running in the UNLV game because they'll get ahead.
How much do you even show in the UNLV game?
You don't.
Probably not a ton.
You run the stuff that you're going to run in every game regardless. You probably throw in a trick play just for fun and just so other teams have to prepare for it. One of the trick plays that you probably don't plan to use a bunch in the future, that type of thing. But a lot of teams, they look at that and they say, okay, we want to see the personnel. Now let's scrap the tape because they know that they're not showing anything unless they're playing somebody really good.
And actually, I'm sorry about that. My mind got screwed up. I read the wrong one. But there was two questions about, how worrisome will the offensive line be, and how does the offensive line look? So there was a lot of people. That seems to be the common theme. The other thing we were talking about is
definite improvement. I would say definite improvement from even last week when they had some guys out, of course, but from 2 weeks ago for sure looked much better. And I think they're getting their rhythm. They're getting in sync a little bit more now. And it starts, like you said, with the snap. I mean, Toa's been much better. I think he had one or two bad snaps this week, but compared to 2 weeks ago when he had a bunch.
It seemed like every third snap was bad. And it does hurt the timing of the play, too. I think that screws up the offensive line a little bit, so it's helped a lot.
And when you have young quarterbacks, you want to make it as easy on them as possible.
You don't want guys reaching because then you take your eyes off what your first read. If it's right here, you can catch it without actually looking away from the defense. And you can read whatever your first read is, the middle linebacker, the safety, whatever it is on a certain play. So it just is that small thing that you may not notice a lot, but if you're reaching this way, it takes your eyes away from whatever it may be. And I think Toa actually only had one bad snap. The other one was Brett Nealon. He shot it over the quarterback.
Oh, that was the one. Was that the Jack Sears one where it was returned for a touchdown, I think, or something? Like the defense picked it up and they were kind of.
Yeah,
that was the one,
and
I think.
Sears came out laughing and
tried to tackle.
Christian Rector.
Yeah, it was Rector or something.
Yeah. We have a question from Chris that says.
Hi, Chris.
Sorry, it just went away. He wants to hear about Connor Murphy. He says that it's been kind of quiet about Connor Murphy this camp.
The big redhead. I think he's looked better. He's been active, a little bit more active. I think we had a question on the podcast about him and Olawale Batiku, who hasn't been around, but I think you've seen definitely upswing in Connor Murphy activity. I think he's bulked up a little bit. He looks a little bit better to me. So I think you might see him, and because they're switching up, the rotation wise on the defensive front, bringing in 4 new guys, switching guys a lot. I think there's some real opportunities for that. That seems to be where they're doing the most rotating. So I could certainly see him get in the mix. I don't know what you guys think, but it seems like he's been a lot more active.
Yeah,
this
definitely.
fall.
I thought he was really good in the last scrimmage. I thought he had some nice plays in that. He had some tackles. He's definitely moved up the ranks as far as where he was in the spring when they were trying to move him down inside. I think he's done much better this. Now the question is, there's a lot of guys on that outside. Those young guys are really stepping up. Hunter Echols has been really good. I think he's definitely in line to get some PT. When does Porter come back? Jordan Iosefa is now back on the outside because Cam Smith is back in the middle, so they moved him back outside. Kanaye Monga has been really good. So there's some people in front of him.
Yeah.
So how much the rotation happens will determine, I think, a lot of who all gets some opportunities, and then what do you do with your opportunities? You've had some guys in the past that have had those opportunities, and just to use Wole Batiku as an example, because I was talking about him with Chris the other day about how many snaps he had. I think he had something like 50, 60 snaps last year, which is a lot compared to guys like Bubba Bolden at 21, defensive snaps. And he had a couple of opportunities where he got his fingertips here on the quarterback,
but
couldn't pull him down. So now if you pull a guy down twice, 2 of those opportunities where he was close. Okay, well, we got to get that guy in a little bit more, and that was something with Christian Rector.
He did that, yeah.
Now, Christian Rector, even before the Porter Gustin injury, he was going to be in there on third downs. He was in there, going into that Texas game. He was in for third down packages to rush the passer, and he got there early in that Texas game, and I think that was part of the reason why they said, let's move Christian Rector outside and try him out, because he got a sack early in the game.
Yeah.
He was kind of hot, and then he ends up, I think, 2.5 sacks in that game, and obviously the big chainsaw rip fumble in overtime to help USC win that game. And they're like, okay, well, we like it. Let's keep him in there. Let's try it a couple more games. He gets a couple sacks against Cal, blah, 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 and you move from there. So if you show results.
Right. He could be a specialty guy, like a third down guy, whatever it is, and then, he does well, someone gets hurt, or you want to move him around. So I think he's moved his way up that ladder a little bit. He's still got to take, I think if you want to see him consistently out there, probably have to take a couple more steps too.
Yeah.
We have a nice little comment from our friend Armand Hawkins, who says, hello, everybody, miss you guys. He also says, Keely, I'm going to scream your name on Saturday, so go ahead, Armand, that's fine.
What's up, Armand?
That, if for those of you, that's Chris Hawkins' dad. We have a question from Gary Wallace, who says, what are your thoughts on running back depth? Carr's back injury scares me, as I feel like backs never fully heal.
I don't think that's much of an issue. I mean, he has been completely healthy as far as we've seen.
Contact, it doesn't seem like they're trying to baby him.
Ran over Isaiah Pullman.
Yeah, that was.
Was that yesterday?
Yeah, that was yesterday.
Yesterday ran him over.
He's a big dude. He's got thick legs, and Stephen Carr probably got a few pounds on him still, but ran him over.
Leverage. Got to get low.
Yeah.
And he lifted him up, took him out.
I mean, he's 6'4",
6'4". He's got to get low.
6'4", but he's not. He's got some trunks on him too. It's not like he's got small legs, but Stephen Carr, a little more compact.
I'm not concerned with the back injury. He's not missed any practices,
No.
which is something that may have been concerned. We need to rest him because of the back, just in case. That would be okay. That might be an issue, but as of right now, you don't see any causes for concern. I don't think in anything that we've seen in the fall. I think he'll be fine. I think Ware obviously has looked really good in the the limited reps he's taken. I think they're just kind of holding him out and not using him too much when he's in there. He's
a
good.
senior. You don't need to see it. Yeah.
Hilton did say yesterday they pulled him for a left ankle or knee soreness, so that is precautionary, but just to be aware of.
Yeah, I think when you see guys get injured and come off things like that, we've seen the limited, we've seen he's not quite practicing yet, he's out there, but we haven't seen that with Stephen Carr. So it doesn't seem like that's going to be some sort of limiting factor.
In that same vein, Gerald asks, who wins the starting running back position?
I think you start with Ware. I think he'll be the starter game 1. By the end of the season, I think Stephen Carr eventually takes it over. But I think now it depends on what they want to do. How much input does Drevno have as far as the rotations? We get different answers from. Interesting question to you guys. What do you think? Who determines the rotations? Because you talk to one position coach and they're like, well, yeah, I wanted to get this guy this many reps. You talk to a different position coach and they say, well, Clay Helton said, Clay Helton's the one that determines how much each person plays. So there's a give and take there, I'm sure. But Dylan McCullough said that he had certain packages for certain backs. He wanted to get everybody involved. They used 4 different running backs last year, that type of thing. Do we see something similar with Tim Drevno as the running backs coach? Or does it become more of, okay, only when that guy's tired do we pull him out? Or do you have, how do they kind of split everything up? I think that maybe changes a little bit with, a different position coach there. But if they do something similar, let's just use last year as an example. If they do something similar to that, I think you'll see, it be 60% Stephen Carr by the end of the year, or no, let's do 50% Stephen Carr by the end of the year, 35% Cedric Ware, and then the 15% left that you go to the other 2 running backs. I think you'd see something like that where Stephen Carr has, this much, but you also have Cedric Ware right there. And obviously, injuries are going to play a part because, as we said before, no running back since I've been at USC, never in USC, has ever made a career healthy. No one. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And we talk about it. We talked about it last year a lot. But on the offensive line, you're going to get somebody injured. It happens. How severe that injury is, you hope it's not. But you've had torn pecs. That ended in Vianney Talamavayo's career. You had Toa Lobanar with the multiple knee injuries. You just had a bunch of Chad Wheeler back with the knee injury. So.
I'm going into the history books.
Yeah.
Chad Wheeler.
I think with
4 years ago?
under Kiffin and Sark, and probably even Pete Carroll too, I think the head coach did a lot of the who's going to play and who's not going to play. And I think Clay Helton gives some leeway to his assistant coaches. So my guess is Tim Drevno will have a little bit more to say. But obviously the head coach can veto, whatever you want. And I think you have to work with T. Martin because, you don't want to put in, someone that, like last year, if it's like this, if you're trying to catch the ball in the backfield, you might not want Ronald Jones in there. You might want, Stephen Carr. There's things like that. But I kind of agree with Shotgun. I think you're going to see more Ware early and then maybe more Stephen Carr later. But they'll both get plenty of carries. I think you're going to see multiple 100-yard games for both of those guys this year.
Tester Troy says, what unit on the defense would you say has been the most impressive?
I might go the defensive front. We're seeing more of them. We're getting you're seeing a lot of pressure. You got guys like Jay Tufele, who redshirted last year, that are crazy good. Marlon Tuipulotu, who's starting and then got hurt, got the red shirt too. It's veteran guys. You got the Christian Rectors and Malik Dorton's doing well. Then you got freshmen coming in doing well. So I think it's a great group. I think they all 3 position groups on the defensive side. That's one. You're seeing actual, real rotations, so I think you're going to be impressed when you see them.
Yeah, I think the defensive line, they've been the healthiest group, as far as the starters and stuff have been there. So you've seen guys like Malik Dorton and Christian Rector get their reps and then get out, and those younger guys are flowing in there as well. Brendan Peely's, just a tank in the middle of the line. You got Tuipulotu and Jay Tufele. Tufele obviously is getting a lot of pub because he's been really good. I think those guys are just increasing, they're showing their abilities. Whereas at linebacker in particular, you got Cameron Smith's been out, Paliye Naitiote's been out, Solomon Tuliapupu has been out. So a lot of talent has been out there. Yeah. The safety position, I think, has been a little iffy because you had Marvell Tell, and then the other one's kind of up for grab, and no one really had taken that spot until maybe the last week. You're seeing Bubba Bolden more and more in the first team, and now with the Keely Ross back, how healthy? How quickly can he get back in that mix, and can he supplant him because he was basically the incumbent from the spring, leading into this. Can he, take over that spot by the time you get to UNLV, or is it a rotation, or how exactly is it used?
You could start pretty much like seniors in the secondary if you wanted to, and then bring in a group of freshmen. It's kind of crazy the depth that you have there. So, Jonathan Lockett too. Don't sleep on him.
I interviewed him yesterday.
Yeah,
he's coming back. His hip injuries were genetic. They weren't. I thought they were football related. It was genetic. His hip sockets grow too much, so he had to get those sanded down. And so he was out the last 3 games of 2016, rehabbed, and then they were like, we should probably do your other hip. Mm-hmm. So then he's out all of 2017. Wow. But he said he's just happy to be back on the field. He said he never considered medically retiring, so he's still in the mix. He had an interception 2 days ago. So
was it yesterday or 2 days ago?
2 days ago.
I remember talking to him about the same thing as you just discussed in the spring, and I was like, that just sounds really painful. We had to sand down and shave off your hip bone. What? No, I'm all right. Yeah. I just walk a little funny for the rest of my life.
Just where he fits in is the only question, because Jenny Harris is probably going to be the starting nickel. Does he play, does he spell him some? Does he play some? corner. I don't know when they do the dime packages. Is he on the field? Not sure like how much he's gonna, but he'll be out there. I think
a lot of talent in that secondary. How do you use it all is going to be interesting.
You guys mentioned Keely Ross. This is kind of a side note, but that whole tantrum, if you will, that he had yesterday, if that was his second day back after being gone almost all of fall camp, if you're trying to win that second safety position, how much does that impact his playing ability if he's going to have an episode like that?
it was strange. And if you don't know, so at practice yesterday they were doing, I believe it was one-on-ones at the goal line, and Keely Ross lined up against one of the receivers. They thought the play was going to go. He was an inside receiver. I think it might have been Amon-Ra St. Brown ran the route, and Keely was covered him really.
Tyler Vaughns.
Was it Tyler Vaughns?
Bayless Jones.
Was it Bayless Jones?
All wrong.
Oh, we're all wrong. Okay. Covers him, does a really good job covering him. No quarterback throws the ball. They went too quickly, and then they came back, and he wanted to go, I think it was like the next rep. And there was I think it was Isaiah Polamalu was already there, and it became this standoff, like, I'm going, no, you're going, I'm going. And then one of the strength coaches was yelling at Keely Ross to get off the field, and it got really heated, and they were yelling at each other and stuff, and then he just kind of took his helmet off and ran to the other side of the field. It was somewhat of a tantrum, I guess you could say. I don't know. But yeah, then we never saw him again for the rest of the practice.
So he walked around the field, and then very slow walk around the field. He talked with one of the assistant strength coaches while they were doing a team period. So he missed an entire team period. Then they were doing a special teams period, and he just basically stood underneath the goalpost for it. I think Keely said that he talked with Clay Helton after that. He eventually joined his teammates on the sideline, and he just kind of disappeared. He tweeted at me today that he had classes why he wasn't in attendance at the end of practice, so that's why he left. But the bad thing is it's just a very inopportune time.
Yeah.
If you're battling for a position and there's basically depending on how they're not going to be in pads today, so it's when you're few chances in shells.
Yeah.
You have 3 practices left in shells basically, or shells and pads. So you don't have a lot more opportunities to kind of make your mark and show what you can do. And Clancy said, I asked him about it after the practice, he said, it's disappointing that he didn't get those reps. And that's kind of the way you look at it. It's like, people are going to get upset and you're going to have things. The thing is it just a practice thing? Can you make sure that only happens in practice, that doesn't happen in the game? Do you not get the 15-yard penalty or whatever it is where you have a standoff with somebody? That's the important part in that. But for him, it's just kind of disappointing because he doesn't get those opportunities to kind of make his mark in a practice where they threw the ball a ton.
They did throw it a ton, and it's a great opportunity for the other guys, like the C.J. Pollards of the world, and Talanoa Hufungas, and and Isaiah Polamalu. All those guys, they got the reps.
Extra reps.
Yeah, they got extra reps, and it was a great day for him. So it's unfortunate that happened. I mean, he was basically a healthy scratch in the script. I mean, the rest of the practice.
Yep. Okay, let's go to a question from Rick, who says, do you think Clay Helton really doesn't know who is going to be the starting quarterback? If he knows, why is he waiting?
What is the advantage of making the decision now?
Yeah, or telling the decision now. I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing he knows, if there's a room full of, if you're the Bachelor or whatever, right away, that's the one I'm going to end up with. But you got to go through all the rigmarole of what, picking the stuff. And the producers tell you to draw it out. I think he knows.
Well, the thing is, it's not like there's, Saturday's going to be a big scrimmage. Each quarterback's going to throw it 20, 25 times, and that's going to help determine it. That's not happening anymore. So from what they've said to us, what he said is that, hey, we're going to sit down on Sunday, we're going to discuss personnel decisions. Now, by that, we assume he means that they're going to make a quarterback decision. They're going to, factor some other depth chart issues. But there's just not those opportunities left for someone to overtake anyone at this point. So it's kind of, the reps have been taken. So if you don't know now, is that discussion on Sunday going to change anything? Now, maybe one coach comes up and no, I got this great idea. No, we can do this. And suddenly Porter Gustin's the quarterback.
Yeah. He could be the guy. Yeah, I think, yesterday I think was probably the last big day you could have made some sort of impression. So barring, some horrible thing happening with, to change your order, it just didn't seem like you could solidify your choice or whatever. I don't know. Well, I think he knows. I think he... At
the least you have an inclination, a plan in the process, and then you followed out this weekend. Talk to the parents. I don't understand why people were so upset.
Yeah, people got really upset by that.
Helton said he's going to sit down with the players and the parents.
Yeah, I did Utah radio this morning, and they're like, "What the heck is that?" And I was like, I don't know. That's like I think that's what he did with the Max Brown,
Yeah.
Sam Darnold thing. It's like the parents are usually involved in the quarterback stuff because that's a kind of big deal.
And
I didn't have a big of an issue with that, but they definitely did.
not to say anything about the current quarterbacks and their parents or anything, but just the quarterback position in general. Usually, the parents are very invested.
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch, the QB1 series on, that's been put out, you see the quarterback parents are usually very invested. As Gerard Martinez likes to say about some of them, that they're Black Hawk parents.
Helicopter.
Yeah, helicopter parents there for Black Hawk Down. So they like to, because the quarterback position is the one position on the field where you're not getting in.
Yeah.
If you're not the starter.
If you're the third wide receiver, you still get a lot. You can catch a lot of balls.
Yeah, and you can still make your mark, and you get in there and do that, and you can force your way up the depth chart. At quarterback, unless it's a blowout, you're not getting in. Unless somebody gets hurt, the quarterback's staying the same. Maybe the kicker as well. Maybe they're also one position where. But because of that, I think you take a little bit more care with quarterback parents, and also because Clay Helton's a former quarterback's coach. He's a former quarterback himself. He also, as someone brought up on Twitter, faith, family, and football. Family's right there in the middle. So, yes, and that's one of the reasons why he's such a good closer in recruiting is that he really involves the parents. He really connects with them, says, I'm going to take care of your son, but that also means I'm going to communicate with you if I need to.
Yeah.
And I got into the whole argument on Twitter, but I would love it if a coach did that because I didn't want my parents to be like, well, why aren't you starting? What? Yeah. And then I have to explain everything that I just said, and then you're going through a filter. So then that whole conversation, if the kid wants to, I don't know, he just said that, I wasn't doing this well enough. Well, then the parents go, well, why is he not starting? And then the parents trying to call Clay Helton. I think it just simplifies things. It takes out steps. And if they have questions, the parents can then ask, well, what does he need to do better? Or you find out a lot about the parents then if they're like, well, that's just wrong or whatever, instead of saying, well, what do you need to do better? That's the answer you want to hear. And then, hey, well, okay, we'll go work on that. That's what we need to do. And you try to win the job back in another way.
And they're still kids at the end of the day.
True.
A little bit.
And especially these are young guys, so.
Yeah.
Max Brown was already 21, but these guys are all 18 and 19.
Yeah.
I got a Periscope question. You want me to throw
Sure.
it in there? Okay, so from Casey, he says, team, as we wait for the new player pages to ship, so let's do 24/7 sports stuff.
Casey Cosgrove.
Yeah, will special teams be special? Why?
Sounds like a Ryan Abraham question.
I don't know about special. I'm always skeptical of the special teams units. We'll see that we've seen some of the standing around stuff, maybe not as much, certainly not as much as we saw. I mean, we're seeing more of it now. We didn't see much of it in the spring. They didn't do a whole lot of that stuff, which was kind of encouraging. They're doing a little bit more now, more like what we've seen from last year. We're still not sure who's going to be the punt returners, kick returners, things like that. It's kind of a wait and see for me to see how they come out. I think some of the attitude has changed a little bit. I do feel they just need to improve a lot on the special teams area. You're going to play teams like Utah. They're going to have, the best punter in the country, the best kicker in the country. All those hidden yards are going to matter in games like that, especially a team like Utah where it's like a 1-point game every time you play them. So that stuff is going to matter. I'm not sure yet. It's got to wait and see for me. But
it still looks like a JNA is going to be the guy for punt returns. How do you feel about that, Ryan?
He's one of my favorite dudes on the team, but I think someone else should be doing it. I think you put Amon-Ra St. Brown back there and just let him go. There's just been too many opportunities, and I'm not sure if it's what he's been told or what he's doing, but letting balls bounce, all that kind of stuff. We don't want to rehash all that, but he's left a lot to be desired as far as a punt returner go. There's too many opportunities where you're not only not picking up yards, and I think Shotgun said that USC returned the fewest amount of punts in its history,
per game,
which is crazy. There's just missed opportunities there. Just sometimes you just want to fair catch it and not lose any yards. Sometimes there's a great opportunity to make a big return and you miss that. So there's all these hidden yards, 50-yard plays that are just gone. So I think a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown will take a little bit better advantage of that.
I think Amon-Ra would be a great back there. I think he just secures the ball really well. You don't ever see him dropping the punch or anything like that. So I think if that's a concern, I think you shouldn't have that concern. As far as that, I think he will.
Plus upside.
Concern, yeah. He will take care of the ball, but then also you have the upside as well. So I think that would be a good choice back there. We'll see how it plays out if they continue. I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of gave both of them an opportunity in a game situation and see where it goes from there. The kickoff return, you'll see some different guys back there. I think Velus Jones will be back there, but I think also Stephen Carr, possibly even one of the freshmen, or there's some other guys back there as well. So we'll see. The thing is, like, special teams can't be worse.
Right. It's hard. It would be hard to be worse.
Last year was just really bad as far as, when you add up all the penalty yards and stuff. And like Ryan says, it's the hidden yards. There's a reason why USC had so many. The offense was so good, and they didn't score as many points, is because they had a long way to travel a lot of times. So they got a lot of extra yards. Instead of a 60-yard drive, it's 80-yard drives, and you get those extra 20 yards on. Maybe it was all just by design. Just to boost up Sam Darnold's passing yards, guys.
Could be.
Maybe. We have a question from Kobe, who says, over or under 1.5 wins in USC's road September matchups?
1.5 wins. Okay.
3 games.
3 games.
I think they win 2 out of 3. So I'm going to go over.
Interesting.
No, I got the under.
Really?
Ooh.
Wow. Pessimistic.
Because I said they were going to split those 4 games. And I think they'll beat Washington State at home, just because Washington State's not very good.
Right.
Even though it's a difficult matchup as far as coming off and having a different offense to prepare for. But
that's tough.
I said they would go 2-2 in those 4 games, and since I think they beat them, I think they go 1-2 on the road.
I think Arizona is definitely a sleeper team. I think we had Harvey Hyde on the show, and someone asked about that, and I like them a lot. They had a really young defense last year. That's not an easy one. After your 2 tough road games, Friday Washington State game, revenge game, then you got to go on the road, and even if you're playing well, you could lose that game because then you're kind of overlooking them. And there's some people on the message boards who are like, they're going to be terrible. Someone's this, someone's that. I'm like, all right, just wait and see. I think Arizona's going to be pretty good. Not saying they're going to beat USC, but they're going to be capable of beating USC with Khalil Tate back there.
And you've seen what Sumlin did when he had Johnny Manziel. It was a much different team than when he had other guys. I think Tate is a similar quarterback in that he can create and do different things like that, keep plays alive, use his legs, do different things, and throw the deep ball. He throws the deep ball really well. It's the intermediate stuff that becomes an issue. Kind of got the Michael Vick syndrome there. I think that team is going to be a true competitor in the South. Now if I remember correctly, they have a pretty easy schedule as far as what they face in the North, and Utah is a really tough schedule.
Utah's a really tough one, yeah.
So I think there's been a discussion on the message board about who, if USC doesn't win the South, who does? I think it's Arizona, because they have a little bit easier schedule in that regard, and just the way their schedule plays out, and with Khalil Tate, he's a true difference maker, I think. Now, how do teams defend him differently? Because he got thrown into that Colorado game, and then he sets the FBS record for rushing yards for a quarterback, and he came into the game.
Yeah.
The starting quarterback got hurt, and Colorado was like, dang,
who is this guy? Yeah.
Why did we injure that guy?
Yeah.
So I think the South will be determined with USC, and maybe even that Arizona game that early in the season. It could be a determinant of how the South plays out this season.
Keely, do you have an over-under on that? Or
see, okay, I think I'm the type where I can see them losing at least 2 games. But then I go back and I'm like, maybe not. I think they lose, I don't know. I think they lose Texas for sure by a close margin.
Okay.
Could be a repeat of last year in reverse.
Yeah, maybe. But then I think they can squeak one out in Arizona and squeak one out in Stanford.
Okay.
So the thing is,
I don't know. I don't want to make any guesses until I know for sure who the starting quarterback is. Even though we essentially know it might be JT.
That's fair.
So I've thought that they'll probably be 3-2, but I will say for some reason I feel more confident about this team than I did last year's team. Going into the season, I just feel like the practices have been better as of recent.
Yeah.
I feel the quarterback is the one issue. I mean, obviously, Sam going from number 4 overall pick to question mark there is a big deal. But for some reason, I just feel that much better about the defense in particular is going to be really good. And, there's just more bodies, more depth. And if someone gets hurt, I feel like there's a better chance to fill in for them. So I feel more confident about this team than last year, even though I think they're going 3-2 in that first 5 games.
I just feel like people ask me, I just feel like this is a team that could go 11-1. Like they literally could. But this is a team that could go 7-5. Like I wouldn't
think so.
Either one of those would not shock me. Like if they went 7-5, like yep, saw it coming. 11-1, like yeah, I could see that coming too. I don't know. I just feel like there's a pretty wide range here. If they start off slow, they could easily be 1-2, right? Like that's not out of the question.
A 5-win window. Ryan's like, yeah, I can see that coming.
No, I'm just saying, like
I saw that. Whatever the record is at the end of the season, Ryan's like, I saw that coming.
I wouldn't be shocked by it. It's not like I predicted that. I'm saying like 9-3, but I feel like it could be a really wide range, and we just don't know a lot. And I'm not sure we're going to know a lot just after the first couple games. Like you thought you knew everything
about that defense, though.
You will, but you thought you knew everything about this team after Stanford, right? Like
well,
last year.
That's the trap that everyone falls into. The Stanford
and you're like,
game.
that's this team. This is amazing.
This is where Keely's talking points.
I always bring this up. The Stanford game is something that everyone tries to determine who the team is based off of what happens in Stanford, and Stanford never is the litmus test. I mean, the first Stanford matchup became the game that everyone was like, well, this is what USC's O-line can be. And they never were like that.
Never.
It's not a good litmus test. So no matter what happens in Stanford, win, lose, it's not usually what USC is like. So just take that with a grain of salt. But, I mean, to your point, as far as you're more confident in this team rather than last year's team, how much do you think not having Sam Darnold, not having Rojo and Deontay Burnett has made at least the coaching staff have to make changes in practice that had to have happened with young guys? Is that a thing, do you think?
I think it could be. I think that's one of the big criticisms was the coaches were like, all right, Sam, go do your thing. And it's like now you have to actually coach. I think that's some of that. There's some criticism there that maybe that's something they're taking to heart a little bit more. But you can't rely, I don't care how talented the quarterback is. You want to put a true freshman in there and let them do their thing. They kind of let Sam Darnold do his thing, and I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, he can do some really special stuff back there, but
I think
a little different.
They've done a great job allowing the chippiness and stuff the last 2 days. I think that's great. I remember the 2016 leading to Alabama, and everybody's just like lolly-dolly, and I'm like, this team is going to get destroyed. And then when they went ahead, I was like, okay, maybe they're just that talented. And then suddenly they got destroyed, and I was like, okay, that's kind of what I thought would happen because there's no intensity at all in those practices leading up the last 2 weeks. Going into it, it's like, okay, we got this down. It was like, no, you don't. You were about to face NFL caliber players at every position. You guys do not look like you're prepared for that, and they were not, obviously. No. And I think that was a learning lesson for the coaches and everything else. And I think last year was a little bit different. It wasn't the same. But this year, I just think the intensity this week has been great. I think the fact that they're going at each other the way they have, and I think that there's position battles with veteran guys. I think that that is what you're looking for. You don't want your position battles to always be freshman versus sophomore or whatever it may be. You've got seniors that are like, I got to fight this guy off. You got Isaiah Langley on the outside is like, I got to fight Greg Johnson off as a redshirt freshman, because he's playing that well. Yeah. So I think that it's just been a different mentality the last week for sure, and I think leading in, I just have more confidence in this group with the way they're practicing right now.
And you want to see them do that during the season, where you feel like sometimes the camp is really good and really intense, and then they get in a game week and it's more NFL-like, where you're kind of walking through things and stuff, and I don't know if that's going to suit this team well. So you want to see the way they practice for mock game week for actual game weeks.
And you feel like you have the depth now that they don't have to play scared with that. They don't have to practice scared, I guess. If Cam Smith gets hurt, we got nobody there anymore. Well, now you have some guys. You move to an SF. You can do these different things. Those outside guys are to play. You do a lot of different things with the depth they have now, I think. So hopefully that in turn allows them to have those more physical practices. On Tuesdays, go full pads and you go at it.
Yeah.
As far as depth goes, Helton did say this week that he doesn't prefer having a scout team now, rather just having the ones go against the ones. I mean, that's definitely a change than what we've seen before. How much does ones versus ones help as far as physicality goes?
I think that's cool. I mean, I think you kind of need scout team periods, like during the season. You want to try to show what's going on.
You'll see it next week.
But sometimes we would see that, like this past week, and we didn't see that at all. So I like that it wasn't really camp, but it was kind of like there were some similarities to camp. So I think the weird thing with the mock game week was they weren't doing like these scout team periods where the offense goes on one side, the defense goes the other, and then everyone puts on the jerseys and you're mimicking what your opponent's going to do. So it was a mock game week, but they didn't do that, which I kind of like. So it made it more camp-like, and it's practice like yesterday. It just was a lot more competitive. There was a lot more just ones versus ones. Sometimes ones versus twos, but most of the time it's like first team versus first team.
I think this week is actually the first time we've seen ones versus twos. It's been ones versus ones, twos versus twos the entire.
I mean, they sprinkle it in, but
a little bit. Yeah. But this week a little bit more. You saw yesterday. You saw ones versus twos. Twos versus threes even. So they're getting those younger guys, those opportunities still, which you want to see in camp. But they're also getting actual good work rather than ones versus walk-ons. which is what you get in
Yeah.
scout team.
Right.
You get ones versus walk-ons and freshmen that are probably going to redshirt. That's what scout team typically is. So you're getting a much better look right now. Now, do they carry that on next week? We'll see.
We will see. We're getting towards the end of our show, so if you want to get your quick questions in for rapid fire, we will
I have
answer
some
those.
from YouTube.
Oh, yeah, let's go, Shotgun.
Do you see Austin Jackson starting at left tackle and Bubba Bolden starting at strong safety? I think those guys are the healthiest, and those guys are in with the first team right now. So I'd say that's probably your game one starters as of right now.
Yeah, I would agree.
A lot
Is there
can
any
change in
concern
a week.
about Clayton Bradley's back? I mean, Helton keeps kind of moving the estimated return date. It keeps getting pushed back later. Now, is there a chance that he won't even make it to UNLV?
Back injuries are always concerned because there's just a lot of things that can go wrong there. I mean, it can be disc, it can be muscles. If it's muscle, it's a lot better than anything else. You don't want anything of that spinal column, obviously. So back injuries are kind of a big question mark. When you see guys back healthy like Stephen Carr, then you're not as worried.
Right.
But
You want to see him back.
and linemen especially, because it's all about leverage, getting under guys and using the full body motion. So that's a little bit of concern, I would say. Any back injury with offensive linemen, I'm always a little bit concerned about how they come back from it. So
There's another Periscope one. King Imperial. How do the cornerbacks look, and do you see Iman Marshall losing his starting spot as the season progresses?
no way. No way. Biggie has looked great.
He's been really good. You're going to see an improved Biggie, Iman Marshall, for sure.
All-American?
Oh.
He's got to get some numbers and stuff for that.
Got to
but
catch the ball when it comes to
He
it?
did not want to be back for a senior year. Like, he did not want, that was not part of his plan. And I think it was humbling, and I think he's used it well.
Yeah, I remember, from when we talked to him in high school, I remember on his signing day, it was a business decision to come to USC. It was basically a business plan was laid out that, that he wanted to do this, and 3 years later, be going to the NFL. And it didn't work out that way. Now, what adjustments do you make when things don't go your way? I think he's done a great job of turning it up. He's super focused. He's locked in. He's been the best cornerback by far in the spring and in the fall. So, there's no way he's losing his job.
Not losing.
No. We have a question from Daniel who says, what grade do you give the practices so far?
I think for the most part, like B+, A- kind of range. I like most of them. I mean, there's been some that have been kind of, that was strange. But I think for the most part, I think you're accomplishing a lot of what you wanted to accomplish.
I'm going plus this week.
Plus
Plus,
what?
Plus.
That's
What's
not
that?
a letter grade.
Baseball. This is scouting term.
Oh.
Plus. He's very, very good.
That's not a letter grade.
I got him on a 70 on the 20 to 80 scale, which is all-star worthy.
All right,
Okay.
So nobody understands what you're saying.
Yeah.
because-
I'm sure there's one person in there.
Yeah.
You can have me.
Sounds good, Chuckin. Jeff asked, does Fink or Sears transfer? If JT doesn't win the job, does he redshirt? So 2 questions from Jeff.
Here's what, real quick. So I think JT wins. I think Jack Sears is the backup, and they'll probably use him in some packages, so that will keep him around. I don't think Matt Fink transfers. I
Matt
think he
Fink
sticks
said
around.
this week, he said, he's kind of asked that question, if you don't win the job, do you transfer type of thing? What do you do? He said, I see this as a place for me, and he said he's a Trojan for life. So from those comments, you would think that he's probably not going anywhere. So USC at least has one backup quarterback, and they could if came down to it, Matt Fink had to start, they could still win with Matt Fink.
Yeah.
Now they have to change the offense a little bit, and he's got to run a little bit more, do those type of things. So, but they could still win with them. Now, with Jack Sears, that becomes the big question mark. Jack Sears was asked basically the same question. He said, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Now, if they put packages in and they assure him that, hey, you're going to get in there and we think we're going to blow guys out, so you're going to get your opportunity to showcase that you can play, and say, I know if I was them, that would be my pitch. That would be the pitch, and say, if we don't have an injury or anything, we're still going to be able to showcase you a little bit because we think we're going to blow teams out. And if you decide at the end of the year that you don't think you're going to get an opportunity here because JT's in front of you, then we would recommend and we'll help you find a place to transfer to that would be a good spot for you, that type of thing. And then USC, it helps out USC because then they have players coming in next year with, Keaton Slovis is committed, they may be looking for a second quarterback in this class, so you don't get down to 2 scholarship quarterbacks where you don't want to be. So I think that is what I would pitch to them. We'll see how they would react to it. And I think that would work out fine for Jack Sears if he transfers, and he's a redshirt sophomore versus a redshirt freshman.
Yeah.
You have those opportunities.
Kobe says, which freshman on defense will see the field the most?
Kanai?
Yeah, I was going to say
Munga?
yeah.
He's been really good coming off the edge. He gets to the passer. I think there's always, in any defense, there's always a place for a guy that can do
Yeah,
that.
if you can get after the quarterback, they're like, oh, Christian Rector, you're getting after the quarterback. Yeah, we'll figure something out. Get in there.
Gary wants to know, is Marlon Tuipulotu playing with his back injuries? How does his health look?
His health is fine. He has not sat out any practices. He's had no issues.
Cleared, good to go.
So Fred asked, since brought up Daniel a minute ago, it made me find this one. What is the true status of Daniel Morabebe? Is it time to put him into the Trey Madden boat? Great talent, but never available.
We got that one on Periscope, too, so yeah.
Fred's making his questions known. He did some teamwork yesterday.
Yeah.
Team run period, which is the first time we've seen it, which is a positive. We want to see him back, obviously, but that's a positive, that he did some team run period with some actual contact.
It's getting close to that for me. It's getting close where there's more of a legend around him than actual, being out on the field. So we'll see. I mean, one of the nicest dudes you want to meet. Him and his brother both seem to get snake bit with these injuries. Josh has that amazing 75-yard touchdown catch and hurts his ankle in the scrimmage. So you want to see him back, but at this point it seems like I'm not because you had the whole last year and then the offseason and still it's going on. I don't know what's going to change between now and 10 days from now that's going to make him get out in the field.
Speaking of tight ends, we got a question. What does the tight end rotation look like now with the injuries that have plagued the group?
You got pretty much everybody back. Austin Appleby has kind of been a disappearing act, the walk-on who was getting a lot of play because of the injuries. We haven't seen him in 4 or 5 practices.
It's kind of weird, yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully I ask about him today. But you got Tyler Petit back, who was out for 3 practices with a little bit of a back injury, as Clay likes to say. He had a little bit of a back.
Yeah.
Well, of course he has a back. Everybody has a back.
Tyler Petit had a ridiculous catch yesterday. It was a little hard for us to see because it was on the sideline where it was way down the field. But you just saw him kind of go up. I saw hands above heads and towards the sideline. He made the catch. It was like, oh, yeah, it was pretty good.
So he's back. He's going to be your starter. Josh Follow has gotten tons of reps. Josh Follow hasn't been great in camp though. He's dropped some balls and different things. But he's your.
He had a really good one-handed catch yesterday too. I was like, oh, that's good because I really was high on him and then he dropped a bunch of balls. But hopefully he's coming around.
But he's been the one guy that's been healthy the entire time. They got Eric Cromanhook back this week. He had a hamstring injury. He was out for 10 practices. They got him back as well. So that position is getting healthier. I think obviously that Tyler Petit is your starter. If Daniel Morabebe is healthy, then he's your co-starter. And then behind that you have Follow and Cromanhook, depending on what kind of packages you want to use.
Yeah.
I think those guys. I think Follow will get playing time. I know he's Ryan's pick to be.
I don't know. Yeah, but there's some hands issues. But I think he's going to make a couple spectacular plays this year. Probably not a lot of plays, but he'll make a couple that are really special. Maybe drop a couple, but that's my prediction.
We have a question. If JT is named the starter, is there any chance that he doesn't live up to the hype?
Yeah, of course. But I mean, from watching all this, I don't think they're going to put him in a position where he's just going to be a dud. I think it'll just be mediocre maybe if it's on the low end. I think there's potential for greatness, but just be oh, he's a guy out there, and coming off Sam Darnold, if you want that special stuff, maybe he's not going to be that special. My gut feeling is it's going to be, but I mean certainly there's a chance that he's just not going to be once the games are on. He's just not that great. I wouldn't think that's a great chance, but it's a possibility.
His career will live up to the hype. Now, does he do it this year? That's the question.
Yeah.
Do they throw him in immediately, or do we see more Jack Sears? We'll see.
But I don't think you can never say never as far as this is can't miss.
Barring injury, he's going to be in the NFL.
All right. Well, shotgun saying no, doesn't matter.
There you have it. Lastly, when do you think the public will find out about JT or the starting quarterback?
Well, if it's like the last quarterback battle, whenever Ryan
I broke that, yeah,
tweets it out.
Yeah.
I kind of felt bad because I think I broke it a little too quickly. But there was so what's probably going to happen is they'll have their mock game. My guess they meet with the families Sunday or Monday, probably something
Sunday.
like that. Sunday is that
Sunday seems right.
It was Sunday last time because I was at a museum, and Ryan's like, "Can anybody write this up real quick? I think this was going to happen."
So the family will get word, which means some people are going to hear about it. So I think soon after they tell the family, I'm not saying I'm going to break this one, but soon after they tell the family, we'll start getting word. You'll see it on Twitter or something.
Probably.
I'll be in a museum writing a story again.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows?
But that would be my guess. We'll see. Who knows? He might not name anybody until the middle of next week. I'm not sure.
I mean, if everybody keeps it under wraps, we'll find out on Tuesday.
Right. That would be
Sure.
if he named someone before that. If he's going to wait until after like Wednesday's practice or something, who knows? I wouldn't think they're going to do that.
From the way they've talked this week, is that the decision will be made this weekend.
Yeah. But
With that and other issues,
Yeah.
other positions and stuff. But I think you could also see some oars on that depth chart whenever the depth chart finally comes out. Which
Yeah.
there's always a
depth chart comes out on Sunday, right?
Apparently.
So we would think we would know on Sunday night when USC puts out their game notes, but you could also get the ours.
Right.
Yeah.
They could
Plenty
put
of
like
oars.
it could be like JT Daniels or Jack Sears, and then like Matt Fink is third or something. So they like cut it down to two
two.
over the weekend. Or, who knows? We don't know. We're just kind of waiting to see. But that's how it'll probably happen because he's going to tell whenever he tells the families, someone will call somebody or let somebody know, and then whoever gets it will tweet it out.
Yep. Alrighty, well that's going to wrap it up for today's episode of Tunnel Vision. We will be back next week, and it'll be game week next week.
Yes,
Yeah,
we can preview UNLV.
Woo!
Nice.
I'm just going to tailgate on the show.
We can do that.
During the show, I'm going to be tailgating.
We got
Sure, that works.
We got our stuff. We have a little decorate. We're gonna still get more decorations, but
We did get a question from our own site that said, "Where did you get those backgrounds?" Which sounds like a Jana Abraham.
It might be, yes. So my wife actually makes these. So you can get these in the USC bookstore. So it's pretty cool. So it's like actual Coliseum. This is pretty cool. This might be a good like tunnel vision kind of thing for us. This
True.
is they're coming out of the tunnel. Yeah, and the surfboards are really popular. We got coasters. Yeah, so all the cool stuff. You can get them at this Coliseum stuff. You can get them at the USC bookstore.
Yep. All right, but that's going to wrap it up for today's episode of Tunnel Vision. Thank you for joining us on Periscope and Facebook Live. Sorry about YouTube. Tried to figure that out. Couldn't get it. We'll get it next week. But that's Shotgun Spratling. That's Ryan Abraham. I'm Keely Eure. We'll see you guys next week.